Well, good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome to another live this morning. I'm back in the saddle, back home, after a little bit of travel. Good morning. Who's up first? Linda. Good morning. You're up first this morning. And Maria. Good morning. Rosalinda, Mike from Norland, Andrea, Niagara Falls, Laura, and Nick, good morning from our staff. Kathy, good morning. Lise, nice to have you on. Brahim, our friend from Portland, Oregon. Linda, St. Jude, Quebec. Carol, Mary, good morning. And Kevin, Oshawa, Fran, Orangeville. And another Fran, 2 Frans in a row. Good morning, Frans. Sandra, Bernice, Connie, thanks for coming on. Bonjour, Yolande. Rain, how are you? Michigan. Bernadita from Oslo. Wow. Cheryl, Donna, Park Hill, Morris, good morning. North Bay. John, Debbie, Nova Scotia, Etta, Nick, and not from our staff. Nick, good morning. Linda, good morning to you. And Carol. Tennessee, Carol. Oh, nice to have you on. Donna, Bell Valley. You guys are great. And Carol, Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. Claudette, good morning. Jeanette, Hearst, Ontario. Up, must be cold this morning. Mary, Gail, Saskatchewan. And Brian, good morning. John, thanks for coming on, guys. We more than appreciate you guys. Chantal, Jocelyn. Now, anybody that, Karen, good morning. We appreciate you guys. Now, anyone that missed out on the webinar last night, not to worry. We're going to put out all that information. We'll put it out in tranches. So we'll give you all that we talked about in the webinar last night. Many of you found it interesting. You know, last night too, there was a question asked, and we were talking about how to test for fatty liver. You know, how could you know? And I can pretty well, by looking at your blood work, tell you if you have fatty liver or not. And that is the triglyceride to HDL ratio. Why is that so important, by the way, when we talk about fatty liver? Because we have a term in medicine, and look, it's relatively new, and that is non-alcoholic fatty liver. But you know what? I thought about this the other day, and I really think that we ought to rename NAFL, okay? So NAFL is non-alcoholic fatty liver. Can I tell you something? 90% or more of doctors, they don't even think of that. They're stuck in the 70s. And when I mean that, when I say it, I mean it. What am I really saying is that medicine has not taken NAFL seriously. It's an epidemic. Non-alcoholic fatty liver. When I was in school, there was only one type of major liver problem, and that was cirrhosis of the liver caused by alcohol. But almost the same condition is happening, and they call it non-alcoholic fatty liver. And today I want to give it a new name. Because I thought about this when I was asked the question last night. Let's change it. For all intents and purposes, let's give it the cause. Let's give it the cause. So when they say non-alcoholic, yeah, it's true. It's not caused by alcohol because a lot of children are getting trouble with fatty liver. So let's rename it Fructose Fatty Liver. Fructose Fatty Liver. Because really, that is the cause. Fructose fatty liver. Very, very dangerous. And one of the things that you see from fructose, I talked about this last night, is high levels of uric acid. And I've said this many a time, that even people who get gout, they blamed it on the wrong thing. Because if you Google gout, they'll tell you that it's caused by purines. And don't eat shellfish, and don't eat red meat, and don't eat anything that can give you purines. But I've always argued that that was never true. And the reason I said it, even though you go back on gout, and gout has been around as long as man has been around. They used to call it the king's disease. But because they always say, well, how come rich people are the elite? How's that? How come the elite in days gone by, why did the elite get gout and the peasants wouldn't? I mean, this stuff is, medical history. Always interesting to me. And it wasn't because the king was eating too much meat. It wasn't that at all, because the peasants were eating meat too. It was because the king was drinking way too much wine and way too much beer. It was called the king's disease. And today, we have a huge increase in fatty liver. We have a huge increase in uric acid. And as I mentioned, you can have high uric acid levels without having any symptoms of gout at all. Uric acid is a byproduct of fructose. Now, you're never going to get high levels of uric acid because you eat fruit. You never will get that. I mean that. Now, I don't want people to live on fruit. Don't do that. Okay, don't do that. Don't live on fruit. Fruit is God's candies, so enjoy, but we live in a different world. I emphasize this all the time. We don't live in the 1970s anymore. We don't. We live in the 60s. We don't live in the 70s. We live in 2022. The world has changed. And someone asked a question last night about maple syrup and honey. Honey? Look. And Tony Jr., answered it properly in saying that honey, especially non-pasteurized honey, I mean, it's good for you. I got no problem with it. Except if you're in the 7%. There's only 7% of the population that is healthy metabolically. If you're in the 93% that isn't, then even good things like maple syrup that comes out. Now, I'm not talking about Aunt Jemima, okay? And did they change that name now too? But you know what I mean. Like, that's not maple syrup. That's syrup, but that's not maple syrup. The one that comes out of the tree. And that stuff, if you don't have any type of metabolic problem, you don't have uric acid problems, you don't have any form of fatty liver, then okay, you can have some honey and you can have some maple syrup. But the reason that I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer when it comes to that is because in my practice, of course, guess what I saw every day? Almost invariably, almost every patient that I saw was metabolically unwell. They had high levels of insulin resistance. And therefore, I used to tell them, look, it's going to take 21 days, but you need to get off all sugars in order to let me change your metabolism. If we lower your insulin, you were going to lower your insulin resistance, it will change your metabolism. Now, getting back to fructose fatty liver. You got the new name? That's what we're going to call it. Fructose fatty liver. FFL. Instead of NAFL. Okay? We're going to, at the Martin Clinic, change the name. Do you give me permission? Fructose fatty liver, because that's what it is. So when you get high triglycerides and low HDL, that's a liver problem that goes systemic. What do I mean by that? When you have triglycerides that are high, fat balls, 3 fat balls that are high. How did that happen? That happened in the liver. How did it happen in the liver? It was what you were eating, and even more so, what you were drinking. The worst thing you can do is drink fruit. God meant you to eat fruit. Eat it. Don't live on it though, but eat it. Don't ever drink it. Now, the only exception that I give is when you're having a Dr. Martin's Perfect Smoothie, you can put a few berries in. You like blueberries? Put a few berries in that smoothie. You like strawberries? You like raspberries? You like berries? Hey, but don't, when you see people go to the mall. I watched a group the other day. They left school. I was driving by a big high school down the road here. And I think it was around 10 o'clock in the morning, a few days ago. And I watched them, and a lot of them were, because it's really a main highway here, going through Sudbury, okay? And I watched, there must have been 20 of them, young people, and they were on the side of the road. There's no sidewalk there. There's a sidewalk on the other side, but they were walking from the high school, and I was wondering, where are they going? Why are they leaving school? Okay? And anywho, I had to do a few things. I come back, and this same group, about 20 of them, were coming back. And then I realized why they left school. They went over and got themselves drinks. Coffee drinks. Not coffee. I don't think one of them had a coffee, but they had all those cappuccinos and whatever else you call those things. And they're full of sugar. And they're drinking it. And I felt like stopping, rolling down the window and screaming, not at them. And yelling out, don't do that. Don't do that. What? What don't you want me to do? Don't drink sugar. You're drinking fructose, and you're drinking yourself into fructose fatty liver. And that is going to be detrimental to everything you can think of. There's nothing that will turn your body into big problems like drinking fructose. Parents, don't give your kids apple juice. Grandparents, don't give your kids orange juice. They're drinking sugar. They're drinking fructose. And it will give them, and it doesn't take long. And there's no symptoms. They won't feel it. There'll be no red light on the top of their heads going off. Hello, you got fructose fatty liver. But that's what happens. Don't drink fruit. If you're going to have fruit, eat it. You're not going to get fructose fatty liver from eating an orange or having an apple. But like I said, be careful. Be careful. Don't live on fruit. But certainly don't drink it. Because when, remember, I used to test for uric acid in my office. Because I found it to be a very important biomarker. One of them, the biomarker, is when you see high uric acid levels, you know that patient has trouble with fatty liver. Two, when you see high uric acid levels, you know that their kidneys are not filtering out. You see, uric acid is meant to leave your body via your kidneys. Your kidneys turn it into urate, uric acid, to urate. But there's a big problem in society today, and that's that fatty liver. And, people that drink alcohol, what it does, it goes directly to your liver, okay? Now, you learn that the first day in biochemistry. How does alcohol break down? Well, it goes directly It don't go past go, like Monopoly, and it goes to your liver. That's how it's metabolized. Alcohol is metabolized in the liver. Medicine has known that for hundreds of years. But fructose gets metabolized the same way in the liver. Fructose, it's okay. Someone's drinking a cappuccino, okay, with high fructose corn syrup, because that's what they're using, okay? The problem with high fructose corn syrup, which is really masqueraded today by 100 different names, but believe you me, that's what's happening. And when you drink that stuff, it's like alcohol. It makes a beeline. It feeds the wrong bacteria. It feeds yeast like nobody's business. But then it goes bang to the liver. And it starts to create havoc in the liver almost immediately. Because first of all, it's stored as fat. Non-alcoholic fatty liver. Fructose fatty liver. What happens to that fructose? It packs up the liver with fat. Metabolically, that is a dangerous thing when you get fat packed up in the liver. Your body reacts to that by sending that fat into your bloodstream as triglycerides, fat balls. Doesn't come from eating fat. You know, even yesterday, I read an article and I just about fell off my chair. Here we are in 2022, and this dietitian wrote an article on fat making you fat. And we gotta cut out the saturated fat in our diets. That's the problem. You know, yeah, it's a problem. Saturated fat is a problem. We don't eat enough of it. We don't eat enough saturated fat. We're on a fat-free craze. And it's amazing to me that even today in 2022, so-called professionals are still telling people that saturated fat causes fat in your liver, in your body. It doesn't cause that. You know, people, they don't understand basic biochemistry. That's not how your body operates. It's when you drink sugar especially and eat it, but drinking it is the worst thing you can do. Because it right to your liver. And then it packs on fat. When you eat saturated fat, your liver loves saturated fat because it doesn't do anything other than clean it out. I used to use the expression, when you see fat around, let me use your imagination. Pretend I got a steak in front of you right now, and it's got a lot of fat on it. When I look for meat, I look for fat around the meat. Why do I do that? Well, it's basic science of nutrition. I'm looking for fat-soluble vitamins. God put vitamins, essential ones, in food. in saturated fat. You see, when you're not thinking, or when you've been trained to look at fat in the wrong way, fat in food, eggs, meat, cheese, saturated fat, good fat, omega-3 fatty acids, excellent fat. When you eat it, it gets into your body, it doesn't turn to fat. It turns to oil. You're lubricating. It's the opposite of what they think, because, they see fat. Okay, see the fat behind me? For those listening to this on a podcast, I'm showing them with my finger behind my shoulder there. I'm showing them fat in the body. Visceral fat. Dangerous fat. That doesn't come from eating fat. That comes from eating and especially drinking sugar, fructose. When you eat fat, that turns to oil. It lubricates. Sugar turns to fat, and that clogs. You see, when you get the wrong training, you get a nutritionist, a dietitian, you get doctors who take no nutrition in medical school, and you show them that fat behind me there, and all they can think of, boy, that person is eating too much fatty foods. And the cereal companies who lie to our kids and grandchildren. They lie. Liar, liar, pants on fire. They lie to them and say, well, yeah, but cereal is full of fiber. And if it's Cheerios or Fruit Loops or whatever it is, that's good for you. Oatmeal, good for you. No, if you're a horse, yeah. But it's basic biochemistry. When you eat sugar, it goes directly to the liver, especially the fructose. And that, my friend, is what turns into fat in your body. And then very bad fats are made from it. Triglycerides. Somebody asked last night, how much protein can I eat? Well, how much do you want? How many eggs can I eat? How many will you like? How much cheese can I eat? I don't care. It's free food. It ain't calories. You see, where did calories come from? Think about it. Where did this whole thing, calorie deficit, eat less and move more? Where does it come from? Eat less and move more. The food industry. Eat in moderation. That gives me a migraine headache. Fructose, fatty liver. You want to deposit bad fat around your heart, around your pancreas, in your bad fat, in your, around your organs, then drink fructose. It'll happen very quickly. We got kids today walking around with sugar bellies. If they have a sugar belly, they have fat big time in their liver. Fructose fatty liver. It don't come from eating saturated fat. And you don't get kidney damage from eating too much protein. It's just bad biochemistry. They don't understand how your body breaks food down. They just don't. And it's amazing to me. Ask Dr. McEwen. When I teach Nutrition 101 to her students, fat don't make you fat. Sugar does. And especially when you drink it. When you drink it. Incredible. So we have a new name. It just came to me in the last few days. What are we gonna call that fatty liver? Fructose fatty liver, because really that's what it is. You see, before the 1970s, and then especially in the 80s and 90s, and now we're into the 21st century here, there was no such thing as non-alcoholic fatty liver. Really. We had to find a new term because it became unreal, the amount that we see in society today. And it'll elevate biomarkers that we talked about on the webinar. It'll elevate uric acid. It will elevate triglycerides. It'll elevate HDL. It will elevate A1C. All the stuff. It'll elevate CRP, C-reactive protein. The biomarkers that we talked about last night. And another one we talked about last night was ferritin. And it'll elevate ferritin numbers in kids. That never should be. Never should be. Where they're going to accumulate iron. Because their liver's not working properly. I was going to bring you another study, but I just couldn't help it because, like I said, after last evening's talk, we got a lot of questions, and we didn't get to half of them to answer them. But because of the size of the crowd. I love, by the way, public speaking. It reminds me of that. And Tony Jr. reminded me yesterday, we were talking before the webinar, and I used to love doing seminars, okay? And I still do a few, live, with live audiences, okay? And I love that. And, because then you can probably take more time answering questions or whatever. I like that. I always enjoyed that. He said, Dad, you know how many people were on with us last night? Via Zoom? How many people a week tune into our podcast? Dad, you are doing it. You're doing webinars and seminars online. It's the new way. You couldn't travel. You'd get tired of it to get to as many people. Anyway, guys, we love you dearly. Just a reminder that if you missed out on the webinar, we're sending these things out, okay? So if you missed that, hey, that's all right. We're going to be sending them out via email and then a recording, I believe. But anyways, that's not my department. I'm not good at anything. I'm so scared I'm going to touch the wrong button. Folks, you know what tomorrow is? It's question and answer Friday. So send in your questions, not too late. Okay? We love to answer questions, and it's always a lot of fun. Okay? So for those who can't watch this, your friends and family or whatever, you can always share it with them on Facebook. But if not, get them to download the Doctor is in podcast. Okay, thank you for making that such a wonderful success. That's you guys. Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.